Hi, my name is Mohan Embar, and welcome to this four-part series on how to learn a language. Now, this series is not going to be about any particular language. It's not going to be about learning Spanish or learning French or anything like that, but rather it's more of a meta course, and it's a really small course, so don't worry that it's going to be like a ton of videos or a ton of your time. It's going to be like a meta course on how, and I'm tailoring this to English speakers because typically we English speakers, we Americans or we Brits or we Australians or we New Zealanders or we many other countries who only speak English are typically bad at learning foreign languages because practically speaking, English is the main international language, and if you know English, you can pretty much get around anywhere. But the fact that you're interested in learning a foreign language means that you know that there's a much richer world available to you if you actually take the time to learn a foreign language. And I personally speak 8 languages at various degrees of fluency, but I can actually have unlimited conversations in all of the 8 languages that I speak. And it's really opened up lots of doors for me, lots of wonderful doors. And I can't even begin to communicate the depth and the richness of these experiences because if you only speak one language, it's hard for me to explain what I've seen and what I've experienced and how it's actually altered my mind. This video is unscripted. I've got like some notes here from a PDF that I've created, but it's mostly unscripted. And I'm just going to like improvise from reading off my notes. So this is informal, but I just wanted to get this out the door because if I procrastinate on this then and want to do it perfectly, then I'll never do it. So this is my attempt to do something which is better than nothing, and I hope that this helps you. So first of all, I'm not going to pitch the reasons for learning a foreign language too much to you, because if you've actually taken the time to come here and fill out your form and give me your email address, that means that presumably you have your own motivations for wanting to learn a foreign language. But I will say that if you're doing it for something that's not something forced, like your partner is you have to communicate with your partner's family, or you have to learn a language for a job or something like that. If you're doing it for pure pleasure, then oh man, you will not be disappointed. This is like, I can't think of anything other than like personal family related things that have given me so much joy as the doors that learning a foreign language has opened. And so if you're doing it for that reason, then you will not be disappointed if you stick with it. And the most important thing is to stick with it, is to not lose your interest, to do anything. I'm a computer programmer, and I tell that to all the people who come to me who say that they want to learn computer programming so they can make money. I tell them, if you don't find a way to sustain your interest by some reason other than money or the number of languages I speak or something like that, then you're going to lose interest and you're going to stop. And losing interest and stopping is like the biggest danger and the reason that people fail. So anything that you could do to not lose interest is the most worthwhile thing that you can pursue in this endeavor. I'm not going to go into all the anecdotes that I could pitch to you in order to convince you to learn a language, because that's my stuff and that's not your stuff, but I will share a few of them with you. One of them is during my exchange program in Switzerland when I was a junior abroad. A junior, for those of you who aren't from the US, junior year abroad means my 3rd year of university studies abroad. I befriended a number of Germans and I hitchhiked a lot in Germany. And I already spoke German from high school, but I improved it a lot during my year in Switzerland, even though I was in the French-speaking part. And some of the experiences I have, I just can't imagine what my life would be like if I had never had them. For example, I convinced a truck driver. I was I think 19 years old, and I convinced a truck driver to give me a lift from this highway stop to further on, like the highway in Germany. And when he found out I was American, he actually like treated me to lunch, and he had me choose lottery numbers for a lottery ticket, because this German truck driver had never met a real American before. And I just can't tell you what it's like to be able to speak in a language and meet people that you'd never be able to meet before. I remember in 2014 when I went to Paris, I went to this meetup in Paris, and then after that, like me and a group of French people were just walking along the River Seine and watching other people dance and just enjoying our company and I just can't I just can't convey. I wish that upon everyone to experience the joy of being able to like immerse yourself in another culture and communicate with the natives and live those experiences. It's really one of the most enriching experiences I have. So I won't dwell on this anymore because I could talk about it for hours. So I'll force myself to stop here. But that's one of the things that I really wish for you. And I hear the lawnmower starting right now. Hopefully it's not going to be that disruptive. I find that I can never come out here in the gardens, in the garden, in the backyard for too long and film these videos without somebody mowing their lawn or trimming their hedges. And I'm sorry about that, but let's hope that it's not too disruptive. Okay, so I'm not going to pitch why learning a foreign language anymore because you know it, but I want to address some of the difficulties or the perceived difficulties that people think they have. One of the things that's a very, very real difficulty is that a foreign language is foreign. Foreign by definition means that it's not something that you're familiar with, okay? So you're going to have to go through an uncomfortable process of learning sentence structures, learning vocabulary, learning a pronunciation which is foreign to the way of your speaking. And for most people, this is very intimidating, and I understand that. On the other hand, it doesn't have to be as intimidating as you perceive it to be, because everyone learns according to their own level. And if I can relate this to my own experience, like I play the piano, but I'm a horrible sight reader, okay? And for me, sight reading has just been this mystifying thing. You know, I know children that can pick up a piece of music and can just start playing it. And I feel like I'll never be able to do that in my lifetime, even though I've gotten better than sight reading. And I was once lamenting about this fact to a musician, and he said, it's just a matter of putting in the time. If you put in the time, you will eventually get to an acceptable level of sight reading. And it's true, I haven't put in the time because I have a pretty good musical ear, and so I'll just tend to listen to something and then just kind of like, I don't want to swear, but I'll tend to just improvise my way through it, to put it in a very politically correct way, instead of actually playing what the notes are. And so it's because I haven't put in the time. And a lot of people find a lot of reasons to procrastinate on something and buy books instead of reading the books, just do all kinds of things to procrastinate. I can promise you, as long as you just put in the time, as long as you don't procrastinate, then you will make progress, okay? And it's not as difficult as it seems. Another reason that people are intimidated by foreign languages is because the quality of language instruction in educational institutions is often pretty abysmal. In my own personal experience, the teachers that I've had in high school and in college are not natives, and they weren't actually very good conversationalists. Here in Santa Barbara, it's an exception because you have a lot of actual native Mexican teachers, for example, in the high schools, and they, of course, are natives, and so the quality of instruction is better. But when I was in the Midwest, it was pretty abysmal, and as a result, a lot of it's a fact, for example, you probably know this or you don't know this, but 1,000 vocabulary words will get you through 90% of conversations, okay? So memorizing 1,000 words isn't as daunting as memorizing I don't know how many tens of thousands of words that native speakers actually have, but to actually have like a fruitful conversation, you only need 1,000 words. And so basically, rather than focusing on that, rather than focusing on magazine articles that everybody reads, rather than focusing on children's shows or children's songs or things like that, a lot of these courses, they'll just launch straight into the subjunctive and then just subject this horrifyingly boring literature on you, or just things written by these French philosophers in the 17 or 1800s that are not only, especially to me, they're as boring as sin, and they don't have any relevance to daily life. And I find that a shame, because once you disconnect the language learning from actual real connection to people in the here and now, then it just becomes this boring intellectual exercise that is not very not very fun. And that's the reason that people lose interest. And also that's the reason I find that teachers who don't speak the language well can actually hide themselves and paper over their incompetence by boring literature and boring, awful, god-awful things, and that hides their incompetence. And so it's a pretty insidious thing here. And I'm just imploring you, if you've been traumatized by that experience, and if you're thinking that that's what language learning is, please get whatever counseling and therapy you need to get in order to forget those memories, and reach out to me personally. Like I said, we're a small company right now, and we can definitely do individual outreach. So this is not me blasting a video to my 10,000 followers. This is me blasting a video to very, very few people who, if they write back, I promise you I will answer them, okay? So if you're traumatized by this, please reach out and I can help you. Like the things that I've actually experienced by my own self-study and online language courses, and the depth and richness and amazingness of those experiences has well gotten me past the trauma of the educational experiences that I've had. But that trauma is real, so I'm not discounting it, especially if you haven't seen the other side of that. Another misconception with a foreign language, okay, there are many different people and many different approaches to learning things. And if you've been to school, you know that people have different learning styles. So I remember before I was going to do my junior year abroad in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, somebody told me, if you buy a bilingual dictionary, then you're an idiot, because then that's not the way a child learns. A child learns by immersing themselves. There's the bird, by the way, and that's another distraction in these videos. But where was I? Okay, that teacher told me that you're dumb if you buy a bilingual dictionary, because that's not the way a child learns. The way a child learns is by immersing themselves in the language and blah, blah, blah. Give me a break. I bought into that initially. I bought that monolingual dictionary, and then I was like, what is, like, and I saw the word rouge-gorge in French, and I was like, I looked it up, and the definition was a small European thrush resembling a warbler with a brownish olive back. And I was like, what in the world is that? And it's a robin. Okay, if you already know that something is a robin, why would you need to go through the steps that a child went through in order to relearn what a robin is? Oh my god. Okay, anyway. So find your own learning style, and don't listen to when other people say this is the only way to learn the language in a certain way. Don't listen to you. The most important thing is to find your own learning style. Okay, so I covered the learning 1,000 words. I covered the finding your own learning style, and the last thing I want to say before I stop and go on to the second secret is that where was I? I lost my place here. The last thing I want to say is that you don't have to be allergic to grammar, okay? A lot of people and a lot of language learning methods talk about, oh, you don't have to learn grammar. Children never learn grammar. Grammar is like this awful, god-awful thing, like going to the dentist that you should avoid at all costs. That's also nonsense. I'm not going to actually name specific competitor methods and things like that, but let me tell you that learning a little bit of grammar can give you massive progress over just trying to paper over that by learning things as a child again. Okay, and this is my own personal thing. If grammar is just this awful thing for you, then and it's going to make you stop learning a language, then don't do that. Now we've got the lawnmower and the bird at the same time. But I'm going to tell you that in my second part of the course, I'm going to go over some English grammar, because I find that like a passing knowledge, and this is stuff that we're talking about 15 minutes of a time investment here, okay? If you take 15 minutes and learn some concepts of English grammar, then it definitely will help you with learning any kind of Western language like Italian, French, Spanish, German, Swedish, anything that uses like a Western sentence structure. And so I'm going to help you with that in the second part. Let's see, what else did I want to cover today? Okay, So finally, I'm going to close with these 4 principles, which I'm going to cover as the subsequent parts of my course, and then I'll leave you with that because I've rambled on too much. Okay, for me, the 4 secrets, and I say in the PDF, half the battle of learning foreign languages is won once you've learned the 4 basic secrets. First of all, the best guarantee of success is the will to succeed, and I'm going to say a corollary of that is the best guarantee of success is to not lose interest, to make your language learning endeavor sustainable, that you will want to keep on doing it and not lose interest. And this is true of anything. It's true of computer programming. It's true of learning any new skill. Unless you're forced to learn it for whatever reason, unless you find a way, a personal way for you that's sustainable, you're going to lose interest and you're going to stop. And that's much more important than any technique, than anything that you could than anything. Okay, than anything. I'll stop at that. The second secret is to know the basic grammatical principles of your own language, and I will help you with that. Like I said, I'm asking for like a 15-minute investment of your time to go over some English grammar notions so that you can carry these over into other languages. And I'll have a really nice PDF with tables and everything like that for you. So don't freak out. Don't freak out. It's going to be worth your while, I promise you. Okay. The third secret is it's best to study for short periods of time on a regular basis. And this is something that I'm guilty of a lot of times because a lot of my language learning, I speak 8 languages and I speak them well, but it's come with a lot of fits and spurts, and it's taken me a lot longer than it should have for the level that I have in these languages, which is a pretty good level, but it's taken me years and years and years rather than less time, because a lot of times I would give myself 2 audacious goals, and then I'd get demotivated, and then I'd stop, and then I'd restart, and so on and so forth. So it's best to study for short periods on a regular basis, and I'll touch on this more in the 3rd installment, or the 2nd or 3rd installment of this series. And finally, the last secret is that there are resourceful ways to acquire a good level in your own country. And especially now, I find that we're living in the golden age of learning languages, because I started this stuff, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years ago, maybe even more. And at the time when I wrote this original guide, which was in 1994, my tips and tricks were in order to listen to native speakers speaking the language when one was in another country. My tips and tricks were buy shortwave radio, go to the library and see if you can find any like videotapes with native languages and stuff like that. So now, I mean, obviously YouTube, the internet are these amazing resources, and so I know from personal experiences with the languages that I've learned later in life that it's much easier in this day and age to acquire a new language than it was back in the days, back in my day, back in the days. So yes, I will leave it at that, and thank you for signing up for this and here listening to me babble on, and I hope that this was useful for you. And leave a comment if there's a way using this platform that you can leave a comment, and you can always email me. Like I said, we're a small number of people, and we can definitely do individual outreach at this stage in the game. Thank you again for watching, and stay tuned for the next time when we will go through English grammar in a very non-threatening, warm, fuzzy, loving way. Thank you.